and welcome back. Thank you very much for tuning back in again. This is the rest of your unit lecture notes for the electoral process. Remember that your goal and your task here is to fill in the content that corresponds to the notes to understand a little bit more about how we pick a president of the United States. So in this half, we're going to understand more about how the nominee becomes official, and then of course the general election itself. So let's go and get started. Stage 2 of this process is a little bit more simple and refined than stage 1. Once the nominee becomes a little bit more clear, they have to be officially approved by their party. That's where the presidential nominating conventions come into play. A nominating convention is basically an assembly held by political parties every 4 years. This is usually held in the late summer months before the general election in November. In many ways, these are huge iconic events for the party and in many ways for the country. In a typical election year, these events are really important because not only do all the party members get together, but the media covers it like crazy too. The whole main reason for this is because the one person who appears to be the nominee has to be officially approved by the party. So, at the convention, the party adopts a platform to unify support behind common goals. That's one of the biggest things that unfortunately often gets overlooked. A party platform is their system of policies, ideologies, and beliefs that's really important to them that does get ratified and or modified before, of course, moving forward. Now, then, the delegates to the convention elect that party's nominee for president and for vice president. So, for example, on the campaign trail, candidates who are running for president might say, I want this person to be my vice president, which is great, but they have to actually get approved by the convention as well. The most important people who are there at the convention are delegates. What is a delegate? A delegate is a voting representative to the party nominating convention. These people, in many ways, are loyal party members, and they've been actively involved in the political process for their respective parties. Now, in terms of how we select delegates, there's two different ways to do that, so just kind of make sure you pay close attention here. The proportional system is the system that the Democratic Party use, and candidates get a percentage of the delegates based on the popular vote. The winner-take-all system is a system in which most of the Republican primaries use, and the winner of the popular vote in that state receives all that state's delegates, similar to the Electoral College. So in many ways, guys, delegates are really important because they're the ones who officially cast their votes for the nominating person to become the party's nominee. Now, in understanding more about this whole process and how it actually works, it should be known that there's different types of delegates. So let me explain how that actually physically works. There are two different types of delegates. The first here is pledged delegates. Pledged delegates are required to vote at the convention based on the popular vote in their state, and they have to listen to the people. So basically, if I'm a delegate from the state of Pennsylvania, I have to vote the way that my state voted at the convention. However, there are also superdelegates, and these are members of the Democratic Party establishment who serve as unpledged, and pretty much they can vote however they want to. Now, not only that, they don't have to listen to the popular vote of their state. So in many ways, superdelegates can make or break a candidate's chances. In fact, if you recall the 2016 presidential election, before the Democrats had their nominee, Hillary Clinton actually got more superdelegates, and this, of course, allowed her the chance to clinch the nomination over then candidate Bernie Sanders. So what's also interesting about this process is that many Americans are quick to point out once they understand it that it's just not fair. But what does happen at the conventions that is fair is that the keynote address is given. This is a speech given at the convention that embodies that party's core message. It's an extremely important event and can propel a politician's career. Then is the acceptance address. This is given the final day of the convention, where a winning candidate formally accepts the party's nomination for president. This is a huge media event, and the acceptance address is always televised by major networks. In many ways, this acceptance speech puts forth the vision of the party and also the candidate who's trying to be president of the United States. So the most important thing about this is that it makes it quite clear to the party and the media and the country about what they're going to do and why they should be the president of the United States after clinching their party's nomination. Next is the general election. The general election is also really important for the candidates themselves because once they clinch their party's nomination, they actually have to go and win the hearts, minds, and souls and votes of America. So candidates actively campaign by basically doing anything and everything that they can think of to get them more votes. They literally travel across the nation in a mad dash to try to win as many voters as possible. They do this by a variety of different ways, by raising money, and in this way candidates need to raise money to run ads like TV, radio, mail, internet, and as you can see here, these are some great examples of flyers which all cost money. They also have to participate in debates. Debates are really important in the sense that they allow the candidates to square off against each other one-on-one to convey their platforms, their ideologies, and of course, more importantly, their vision for America. Most election years have three debates, and in this way, people, the American people, tune in to watch exactly what the candidates do say. They also hold rallies and speeches. If you remember from this past election year, despite COVID-19 restrictions, Donald Trump did have a lot of rallies, which allowed him the chance to capitalize off of his, popularity across the nation. Now, of course, you have to be strategic about where you travel to, so please keep this in mind here. There are several different swing states in our republic, which could go either way, Democrat or Republican. And typically, good campaigns try to target swing voters in these swing states to vote their way. And we'll talk about why that matters later on. Please proceed to the next part of the presentation on the Electoral College to understand how the final process actually concludes.